Hey y'all, and welcome back to another video on my channel. And today I wanted to talk about Oyasumi punpun or Goodnight punpun. I'm pretty sure you are all aware of this manga. It's pretty popular. And what I mainly wanted to talk about was the ending, right? What was the ending about? Why was the ending so happy-go-lucky, right? Also, if you haven't read the manga, heavy spoiler warning. I'm going to spoil the entire ending, right? But before leaving, do give me a like, right? Hey, I'm just kidding. Just get the hell out of here. Let's start with Punpun killing Aiko's stepmom, right? So he did the deed, and they were like, okay, it's time to run away. Our childhood promise, it's time to fulfill that promise, right? But interesting part is what I actually want to focus on is the taxi scene, right? Where Punpun and Aiko are driving away from society basically. I want to talk about this scene because it does a reference to the scene way back in the earlier chapters of Punpun where Punpun was visiting his mom in the taxi with his uncle, right? See, back in the day, you guys know, like, Punpun promised with Aiko that they would run away together, right? And that day, like, when Punpun visited his mother, he was supposed to go and meet Aiko and run away together, right? In the train station, I believe. So, he didn't have the balls to do it, basically. He didn't have the balls to go and just run away with the girl, right? Especially at that young age, which is understandable. But he knew it was wrong, you know. He knew that he promised it after all, right? In his mind, he did promise that he would run away with Aiko no matter what, right? So in the taxi, he's just constantly telling himself that no way, Aiko doesn't want to run away with me. Why would she? She's like 10. What elementary school girl has the bravery to basically run away from home, right? Like, he's just making excuses that there's no way Aiko is running away. It has to be a bluff. She's making a bluff, right? So, and right as he was making those bluffs, out of the taxi window, he sees Aiko waiting for him and crying, basically, because he didn't show up. And in that scene, what it basically showed was Punpun didn't want to admit that he was wrong, but once he saw Aiko, he had no choice but to admit that he was indeed in the wrong, right? Aiko trusted him, right, with a promise, and he broke the promise, and he regretted it, right? But even though he felt bad about breaking the promise, you know, he never tried to like fix it in any way, basically. At least I don't think so. I don't think in any way he ever tried to fix that. He just after that he just broke down, right? He couldn't even talk with Aiko, yada yada. A lot of stuff happened in his teenage years. I'm not even going to touch those. Current day Punpun, who has went through a lot of trauma in his life, you know, literally sexually assaulted by his aunt. His uncle is a terrible role model, right? Plus, him being a lonely loser teenager trying to almost rape someone, like, it was just terrible, right? He is a 100% case of an abused child becoming the abuser, right? He's literally that. Like, his mom tried to kill herself with him. His dad was a bum, basically, you know, and having multiple arguments with his mom every day. I wouldn't say argument, it was more like he'd yell at his mom would yell back, yada yada, a lot of stuff would happen, right? Childhood was a mess, right? But what I'm trying to say is he didn't try to make the situation with him and Aiko better, right? After he broke the promise, he didn't like go up to her next day and say sorry or yada yada, right? He just accepted it. He accepted that he's a piece of shit, right? For breaking the promise, and that's it. He felt so guilty that he didn't even want to fix it. That is a very bad mindset to have, right? That is a very toxic mindset to have, and I'm pretty sure it's because of his, neglectful parents and all that stuff, right? So current day Punpun, he doesn't try to fix his mistakes, right? Early Punpun, in every cases, whenever he makes a mistake, he doesn't try to fix it. He just wallows in it, right? You can see this throughout the entire manga. Like he doesn't try to improve himself ever, right? Never. With Sachi, Nanjo Sachi, I'm pretty sure the best girl, by the way. She was trying for a certain period of the manga, trying her damn best to help Punpun out, right? Punpun was basically a bum at that point in his life, just barely living life, you could say, just being pathetic. And Nanjo was trying to help this man out, right? Get him a job, get him a passion, anything in life, right? Here's the fun thing, right? He was about to go there, right? Because how good Nanjo was to him, he understood that, yo, I don't think I can keep being pathetic anymore. I need to change because of Nanjo, right? So he was right there, right? He was right there. He just needed one little more push to actually become a better person, right? And he understood that. He was right there. But then came in Aiko, right? Now here's the thing. Now we all thought that Aiko was an abuser, right? And she was. She was an abuser at certain points of the manga, right? Because she was also abused as a child. And yes, usually victims of abuse can turn into abusers. So, but here's the difference between Aiko and Punpun, right? Aiko genuinely wanted to improve. She just didn't know how to go about it, right? She thought that she can't be with a normal person. She can't like connect with someone who's normal, who never was abused, who never was, who led a normal life. She thought there's no way. The reason why she chose Punpun when she was little, she could feel, right? She could feel it that out of everyone, there's something wrong with Punpun. Like, sure, everyone has something wrong about them, but she could tell that what's wrong with Punpun is because of his family life, right? Since the beginning, she could tell, and that's why she chose Punpun to run away with, right? But Punpun was different. He never wanted to run away. Like, he's too afraid to run away. He doesn't want to improve for some reason. This is Punpun. He never wants to improve. He never wants to go to a better future. He just wants to stay in his pathetic present and keep being more and more pathetic, right? That's his when he that's just his character. Here's the thing. Punpun might have not been, as much abused as Aiko. I think Aiko was more abused. I'm talking about when he was little, right? Young Punpun. He already used to it, right? He just wanted to be in that automatically, even if he didn't know it back then, because he's a young kid, doesn't really know much about life, but he instinctually just likes to be in a pathetic position in life, right? He never wants to, not even try, it's just want. He doesn't want to improve. It's not about trying. Everyone tries. Not a lot of people get to improve in life, right? Even after trying, but he doesn't even want to improve, right? So that's the main difference between Aiko and Punpun, right? Aiko wants improvement, Punpun doesn't. Now here's the place where Aiko basically messed up. She messed up when she chose Punpun, basically, right? because she thought Punpun and her were like the same, you know? Both of them wanted to run away from their abused household and just be free, basically, right? But Punpun never wanted that. Punpun was too scared, whatever he was feeling. Even when he was a kid, he didn't want to improve. Even when he's an adult, he doesn't want to improve. So now we finally come to the adult phase, right? We finally come to the point where Punpun and Aiko are running away in a taxi. What I find interesting that this time Punpun also sees someone out of the taxi window, and it's Sachi Nanjo, the girl who's literally been helping him improve in life, right? Basically dragging him out of this negative space that he's created for himself and making him improve, right? Turning him into someone better. But this time, Punpun saw Sachi out of the window. He didn't regret it, unlike young Punpun, right? Young Punpun regretted it. He regretted, he understood that he was in the wrong and he regretted it, but he just didn't want to improve, right? This Punpun, he knows absolutely well, right? Young Punpun knew that he needed to be in the right space, right? He needed to be in the right space, but for some reason he couldn't just do it. He couldn't just go along with the right path. According to him, I'm not saying that he should have run away with Aiko, you know. But according to him, he was in the wrong for breaking that promise, right? And he regretted it, but he never chose to do anything with that regret. He just kept wallowing it up. This Punpun doesn't regret anything, right? He doesn't regret anything. He knew damn well that he is throwing away everything good in his life by running away with Aiko, right? He knew it. He knew that this was the worst way. This was the worst possible route he could take in life. And he did it. He did it with a straight, bold face, right? He knew that if I do this, my life will be ruined. And he took it. He took the path anyway. So after that, we keep seeing just more. We see the part of an abuser inside of Punpun. You know, all these years of being abused, being pathetic and lonely, and basically having no life except depression, it obviously turned him into an abuser, right? So now he's abusing Aiko. As we see, he, I think, punched her. I'm not really sure if he punched her or not, but I remember he knocked a tooth out of her, right? And the face that Aiko makes right then, right? She understood that, oh, that, yo, what am I made the wrong decision. Then and there, Aiko understood, wow, I made the wrong decision. This guy is horrible. He's more broken than me. Aiko realized it then. I thought you were gonna be like me, and you know, but you're worse. I actually want to improve in some way. In some way, I wanted my life to improve. You don't even want to improve. You just want to just stay in here. You just want to stay in this broken state, right? At least that's how I took it, right? Like, Punpun was then blaming Aiko for all that bad happened in his life, even though he wasn't even with Aiko for like most of his life, right? Aiko wasn't even a part of his life for most of the time, right? They only met during their childhood, I think a few times in his teenage years, and then way later in his adult years, right? So I find it funny how he's blaming Aiko for all his bullshit in his life, even though Aiko didn't wasn't even with him, you know. But he he doesn't blame Aiko technically for everything. He blames Aiko because I guess Aiko made his life miserable by making himself realize that he is miserable, right? Aiko was the first person to do that. Aiko was the first person that made Punpun realize, wow, I'm a piece of shit. Way back then for breaking his promise, right? And now he blames that on Aiko, that you're the cause. And yeah, man. So after that, after all the abuse, after all the bullshit, Aiko was like, "Yo, there's no life for me. I made the wrong decision. I chose the wrong prince. I chose the wrong prince in shining armor," and decides to kill herself. Right? She commits suicide, and then what does Punpun do? Right? Punpun. Now, out of all of this, what does Punpun receive as punishment? Right? He In his life, he never wanted to improve himself, right? He always ran away from anything positive that could happen in his life. He almost tried to rape a girl, I remember that. He did a lot of gross stuff, right? He he definitely abused the literal life out of a girl, right? He definitely. Do you understand how messed up it is? Like, Aiko was abused by her stepmom for her entire life, right? But she still had hope, right? She still had hope. Punpun literally, literally destroyed all of that hope that she had in like 2 or 3 days, right? Or maybe even one day. Like, yeah, and one day Aiko, he basically broke all her hope, every bit of hope she had. So yeah, man, and it's really sick. Punpun is really a sick individual in the head. He's just the worst, you know, just the worst. You know, I see a lot of people saying that they find Punpun to be relatable, right? And I'll tell you why we find Punpun to be a relatable character. It's not because we're sick in the head like him, right? It's not. Trust yourself a little bit more. You're not as bad as Punpun, unless, you are. But if you haven't done the stuff he has done, you're not that bad, right? The reason is we see the worst of ourselves in Punpun, right? He is literally so bad that he basically embodies all the negative sides of a kid, of a teenager, and an adult, right? He carries it all, right? That's why he's relatable, because we can relate that we see our worst sides in him, whether you've been abused, whether you're a victim, whether you are an abuser and you're trying to improve, I hope, whether you're unhealthily horny, yeah, right? Whatever, right? You're obsessed with sex, whatever it is, right? You can relate to Punpun in that way, but none of you should feel relatable to Punpun about the fact of not wanting to improve in life, right? We all want to improve in life, right? Unless you are like Punpun. If you don't want to improve in life at all, right? If you don't want to improve in life at all, that's when you will actually feel relatable to Punpun, because that's it. That's what Punpun is. He is an individual who has gone through a lot in life, but he's never tried to get up. And he will never, ever try to get up, right? He's just a sad individual who doesn't like improvement in life, right? He doesn't enjoy improvement in life. And because of this, he has caused basically a girl to commit suicide, right? So my question is, what does Punpun pay as repentment, right? As a result of doing this, of basically take making a person kill themselves. What does Punpun get for that, right? What does Punpun get? Because he's horrible. He's a horrible human being, you know. He it's even worse than being calling him evil. He's not even evil. He's just the worst. Like, you can't help him. He won't let you help him, and instead he will drag you down, right? That's the type of person he is. And those types of person are dangerous, man, because you feel sorry for them. They're not evil, but they will drag you down in life, right? At first you think, yo, why is this guy in such a pitiful state, and you try to help him and yada yada, but he will never want to be helped. Instead, he will drag you down, right? I've seen a few people like that. I've encountered a few people like that online, right? And online. So what I wanted to say was, yeah, that's what Punpun is, right? But here's the interesting thing. After doing all of that, right? After abusing Aiko like that, choking her, slapping her, giving her a bruised eye, all of that stuff, what does he get as punishment for doing all of this, right? Nothing. He he goes on to live a great life. Um, he tries to kill himself, fails, right? He fails because he's pathetic. He wanted to kill himself because he has nothing in life left, right? He's at the bottom of life. But even then, he can't go through with it because that's just him, right? He doesn't want to go further in any way. He just wants to stay in this rotten phase of life. That's just him. He it's just that he just wants to stay in this pathetic life of his. He wants to keep it. He At this point you could say he enjoys being in this part of life. So he fails at killing himself, right? Because he's pathetic. He's a pathetic piece of shit. And he wants to continue being a pathetic piece of shit, right? And then what happens? Nanjo finds him and he's fixed. He's fixed. Now, after being with Nanjo for so long, he doesn't want to be a pathetic piece of shit in his life anymore. Basically, he had a character growth. Got a happy ending, right? He got a happy ending because now that state of mind, he's gotten over it. He doesn't want to remain in a pathetic state anymore, right? He doesn't want to remain in there. He's having a decent relationship with Nanjo and his daughter, right? He doesn't live with them, but that's because, he thinks they deserve better. Absolute 180, right? From him making Aiko kill herself to him not living with Nanjo because he knows he's a piece of shit. So he's improving. He's improved by spending time with Nanjo, which was supposed to happen. So here's the thing. If Punpun by himself avoided the one good thing in his life, which was Nanjo, he put that behind him, why did he get a second chance in life, right? I know it sounds messed up, right? Why did he, when he deliberately pushed away the good side of life, why did the good side of life chose him again, right? Because Nanja is just like that, right? She likes Punpun, she feels bad for Punpun, and she wants to help Punpun. So she helps Punpun and yada yada and everything, and Punpun just lives a happy life. I think he has a job now. He's has a pretty good relationship with his daughter and baby mama, and yeah, he has friends and all of that, and he's happy. By the end of it, by the end of this manga, he's happy. So I'm like, wait, so he doesn't get anything? He doesn't get any punishment for throwing away his life? He doesn't get any punishment for trying to rape someone? He doesn't get any punishment for basically ending Aiko's life? And he just gets away with it? He just lives a good life now? And then I remembered something. I remembered about Punpun's uncle and aunt, right? They also did horrible things. Punpun's aunt sexually assaulted Punpun. Punpun's uncle is a pedophile. Well, both of them are a pedophile because, Punpun was also a kid back then, right? So they're both pedophiles, and his uncle didn't do the deed with the girl, but he was sexually attracted to a young girl, right? He was, and none of them suffered because of it, right? None of them suffered for doing all this horrible shit. Pun's uncle cheated on his wife, and even then, they are now happily married, and they have a kid, right? So I understood something, that what Punpun is trying to say basically is horrible people do get happy endings. They don't deserve it. Punpun does not deserve this happy life at all. He fully consciously chose the wrong path every time. He knew what the correct path was. Since he was little, he avoided the right path, right? He avoided it. And at his adulthood, he absolutely abandoned the correct way. All his life, he avoided it. He avoided the good, the proper way of life, right? He avoided the proper way of life since his childhood. Because, you can make the excuse because he's a kid, he doesn't know how to pick a side, he doesn't know how to pick the good side or the bad side in life, right? But after becoming an adult, we see that he deliberately chose the negative side of life, right? He did that, and yeah, he's a horrible person for that. He is. I'm sorry to say this, but he's scum. He's scum. Yeah, sure, he's been abused, right? He's been abused since his childhood, yada yada. But just because you've been abused, it doesn't give you the right to abuse someone else. It doesn't give you the right to stay in that damaged part of your life. It doesn't. It's not healthy for anyone to stay in a negative side 24/7, right? It's not healthy to wallow in your depression all the goddamn time, right? So yeah, man. And that's what Punpun is. As this horrible person, Punpun still got a happy ending. Because, again, as I said, the whole point of, I think, the ending was that horrible people get a second chance. Good example of this is Junko Furuta, right? We all know the case, Junko Furuta. She was raped and murdered by 4 teenage males, and currently all of them are free, right? I think this happened back in the 90s. I'm not really sure about the exact days, but if you guys know about how she was tortured, you'd be sick to your stomachs, right? You guys would be sick to your stomachs. This is a real life case I'm talking about. Those 4 guys basically, tortured her, raped her, and finally she died out of the torture. Physical torture, that is. Yeah. So, so just like that, you can see even in real life, horrible, scum, absolutely the worst of worst people get to have a happy ending. Those four murderers, those four rapists, those four absolute vile fucks are now free, roaming the earth. We don't know what their condition is. They could be just living a happy life, getting their second chance, free. Just they only had like 10 to 15 years of prison. That's all they got for absolutely doing the most horrific crime, one of the most horrific crimes in history. All they got was 10 to 15 years of jail. And that is insane to me, right? When I hear that, I'm like, what? How why? Why did God, why did Allah ever allow this to happen? But it did, that's the point of this manga, right? Horrible people do get second chances that they don't deserve at all, and they can end up having a great life. And yeah, man, I think that was the message of the ending of punpun, right? I know this was a bit of a, depressing video, right? But we're talking about punpun, of course it was gonna be depressing. But yeah, man, that's all I kind of wanted to say today. I hope you guys have a great day. Don't think too much about it, right? Don't be and then don't think about the negative sides of your life all the time, right? Yeah, sure. Sometimes life is bad, definitely, but try to overcome it as soon as possible, right? Try to overcome your worst state as soon as possible, because if you don't, you'll slowly get used to it, and that is not a healthy thing at all. So yeah, man, stay safe, stay happy, and if you like the video, give me a like and subscribe, and I'll see y'all for the next video.